It's the middle of the Steam Spring Sale, so developers have been a little cautious with releasing their games, meaning that we have a smaller week but interesting releases nonetheless, where I've lumped in some 1.0 releases as well as games that I missed from March so far, such as Touhou, Red, Empress, Devil, and honest to goodness bullet hell action roguelite, in contrast to the Vampire Survivors style bullet heaven titles where enemy projectiles will hurt you, so you need to dodge. Impressively, this has over 20 playable characters from the Touhou project and awesome pixel art, so if you're up for a challenge, give this a try. If you grew up with classic Japanese RPGs like Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy, I'm pretty sure Splintered will be of interest, an 8-bit turn-based RPG that looks very classic in design, beginning as most JRPGs do in the wake of a devastating enemy attack which has left the kingdom decimated, the king dead and the sacred artifact stolen. As the descendants of a legendary knight, you embark on a quest to avenge the king and reclaim the artifact, but upon defeating the villain, they send the world into chaos, splintering the land and rolling back time. This randomizes the world, items and enemies, creating new challenges with each iteration, where beating a run then unlocks new challenges, classes and game modes, and looks like it will be for fans of the genre. This video is brought to you by World 2, a roguelite tower defense mining title which is the follow-up to a game from 2023, expanding upon its predecessor with enhanced mechanics, deeper progression systems, and a richer narrative. In this sequel, in addition to the intense wave-based defense along the outside of the vertical wall in the first game, you can also pilot the robo-spider into the wall itself, stopping to dig into procedurally generated mines to extract valuable resources and uncover hidden secrets, while still having to return to the vehicle to fend off waves of enemies. There are now enemies and anomalies within the mining portion of the game as well, with more biomes, secrets and threats within the wall, but luckily, you will have a variety of upgrade options for both the robo-spider as well as your own exosuit. It retains a pixel art style which looks fantastic, and given the quality of the original, this should be great, so if interested, wishlist the game on Steam. A not-so-indie title is Wreckfest 2, the follow-up to a very popular Demolition Derby themed racing game, with the original being such a huge hit with players that the relatively small studio got acquired, and 7 years after the original, they are making a new one of these. Pardon my ignorance since racing games are not really my thing, but this looks to be fairly similar in concept, with the deformation and destruction physics being the appeal. You are also driving busted up cars which are patched together and repaired, which does mean plenty of customization options, with 3 modes at the early access launch of racing, derby and multiplayer, with additional features like tournaments to come in future updates. I was aware of this game when it was on itch.io, where it appears that this developer has finally gotten around to releasing it on Steam, where the cleverly named roguelite deck builder is of course a play on the, some would say, oversaturated subgenre following the popularity of Slay the Spire, but the title makes sense since you are building a deck for your home, building a hammer, and having to hammer in nails to secure the wooden planks. You do of course have to avoid hitting your own hand, but curiously, the light shining on where you work is faulty, so there might be some creepy vibes along with the strange art style, where this developer keeps mentioning that freedom is $1 million and describes the game as a digital wooden board game, making it a curiosity at the very least. Love indie games? Sign up to my newsletter to get a weekly dose of what's hot, along with some news and of course, weekly game giveaways, so if interested, link is in the description below. I do have a soft spot for games that look like Geo Mythica, since the throwback visuals are nostalgic, where this, interestingly, is an 8-bit JRPG, but one which mixes both real-time and turn-based combat. It's a mix of settings and ideas, where our hero is a high school football star who finds himself exploring Earth's bizarre underworld, adventuring through that in order to defeat an evil corporation's plan for world domination. The characters that join your party do seem to fall into classic roles like warrior or archer, moving around in combat and attacking in real time, but you can freeze the action to assign them instructions on which enemy to target with which ability. There appears to be some sort of airship equivalent as well, which allows you to explore the world, visiting real-life locations like New Orleans and China, mashing together settings, themes and ideas, and just looks so unique. Other games include a bunch of titles from earlier in the month, including Dice People, a game which has an art style which I've seen a lot of but don't have a name to describe it, so if you know, please leave it in the comments below, where this is an incremental title about rolling dice to create a massive army of dice people, using them to destroy the enemy to get more resources for more upgrades for more dice people and so on. The luck of the roll still matters, since the number on the die affects the effectiveness of the unit, with the massive skill tree providing a constant sense of progression, with it being a relatively short experience, clocking in at about 2 to 3 hours, but it's a low price as well, so why not give this a go. The Vampire Survivors style Bullet Heaven roguelite continues to chug along, the latest new example of which is I Am Legion Stand Survivors, one that incorporates elements from games like Just King, in that you have a party of heroes instead, named stands in this game, so maybe a JoJo reference, surrounding and blocking your central character, where party composition matters if you want to be successful. This has pixel art, which is alright, where variety is the name of the game here, since you have over 100 stands to choose from, including warriors, mages, and much more. Progression here comes in the form of a mobile game-like merge system, where you are combining identical items to get a higher level version of it, along with the individual stands that can also be leveled up as well, and is a great one of these. A pleasant surprise from last year is Leap Year, a platforming and exploration-focused Metroidvania that played with basic concepts found in video games and was about the joy of discovery, and 1 year later, the developer released a paid DLC titled March. This is meant for players that beat the original game and wanted more, offering a new world to explore with the same tools and abilities from the original, adding about 4 more hours of playtime, 50 new challenging rooms, more Steam achievements, and ominously, a new way to die, and I would recommend this if you love exploration in games like me. There has been an uptick of paid idle/incremental games in recent months as well, nothing too crazy in terms of sales, but they are doing well relative to most other indie games, with Manos being of interest here. This seems to be taking some inspiration from the Flash games of old, being a destruction-based title where you control a powerful hand icon which has a variety of ways to destroy various shapes, having the classic gameplay loop of destroying shapes to get money for upgrades to destroy even more shapes, where this, at least based on Steam reviews, appears to be double the length of Dice People and hence double the price, but either would be good if you love seeing numbers go up.
So you think you've had a tough day at work? Welcome to Azimuth Special Operations.
It's difficult to tell how co-op horror titles will be received, since there have been a lot of them following the success of Lethal Company and Phasmophobia, with Repo being the most recent hit, and the next game to try is Niktophobia. This is a sci-fi title for up to 4 players, where you arrive on a space station and have to extract alien biosamples, having a variety of tools available to help you along the way. However, the amount of power in each station is limited, so you need to decide which parts of the station will be lit up and where you have to use torchlights, with, of course, horrible alien monsters lurking in the dark which you need to combat or run from. The trailer is cut together weirdly, using clip art, emojis, and other weird sound effects for a game like this, so depending on your tolerance for that kind of thing, the first impression might turn you off, but like I said, it's hard to predict how these will do, so perhaps keep an eye on this. Attention, attention! Party Club will be free to claim for the first 24 hours with a release date of 17 March, so if you're watching this video on the day it releases, head on over to the Steam page to get it, with this being a co-op management game where up to 4 players run a party venue, having to seat customers, serve drinks, and manage the chaos that ensues. Each patron has unique preferences and behaviors, so seating them wisely is crucial to maintaining order, with plenty of customization and upgrade options available like new furniture and decor to attract new clientele. Random events and disasters will occur, challenging your team's adaptability and coordination, so if you love games like Overcooked, this will be of interest. One of the more interesting upcoming releases is Pathologic 3, a first-person narrative adventure RPG that is the follow-up to 2 cult classic titles, with the third entry having you playing as a doctor in a desperate scramble against time to save the people of a town from a mysterious plague that will destroy it in 12 days, but where you experience time differently, being able to explore past, present, and future, where changing events in any period will affect the rest, releasing a free standalone prologue named Quarantine this week. In this prologue, you assume the role of Bachelor Daniel Dankovsky, a distinguished doctor from the capital who ventures to a secluded town in search of an immortal man. Upon arrival, he confronts a mysterious plague outbreak, compelling him to investigate its origins and to seek a cure. The game introduces the time travel mechanics, allowing you to revisit and alter key events, thereby reshaping the narrative. As Dankovsky, you will have access to advanced medical tools, including microscopes and quarantine measures to diagnose and treat patients effectively, offering a glimpse into the main game's non-linear storytelling and mechanics, and should be of interest. We also had the 1.0 release of Rogue Genesia, one of the more popular Vampire Survivors style titles, which currently has more than 6,000 Steam reviews, which means many copies sold. Honestly, there isn't too much in terms of story, where you play as the protagonist, Rogue, who has to battle relentless hordes of enemies across various worlds, featuring hundreds or even thousands of enemies on screen at the same time, selecting from over 60 weapons and more than 200 passive upgrades, which allows for diverse and customizable builds. As you progress, you encounter formidable bosses, which are just a little bit more involved, with powerful artifacts, meta progression systems, and more, where the formula is tried and tested by now and is a great one of these. The latest entry in the interactive toy/ultra cozy game is Urban Jungle, one that invites you to transform small, ordinary apartments into lush green havens by strategically placing a variety of delightful plants. The game emphasizes creativity and design, allowing you to decorate spaces without concerns of having to water them or even pest control, but is a bit more involved with light puzzle elements, as you have to find the optimal spot for each plant to craft the coziest home environment, which does unlock additional plants. It also follows games like Unpacking, telling the heartfelt journey of our plant-loving protagonist, witnessing her growth as she moves through the different stages of life, with each new space bringing her closer to her dream home, with it also having a charming cat companion, so what's not to love? If you love Metroid, Zexion looks to be a title of interest. A sci-fi entry set on a dangerous alien world, in which you play as a space warrior on a mission to find the mysterious Zexion and to save their home world from destruction. This, of course, has a vast, interconnected map filled with dangers and secrets, where your enemies include galactic warlords and space pirates, all vying for the power of Zexion. Of course, you will have a variety of tools and upgrades to help, such as the Force Blaster, which fires a spread of bullets capable of pushing blocks and knocking back enemies, and the Gravity Harness, which allows for short-distance flight with 8 directional shooting independent of movement for a more run-and-gun feel to the action, and looks like the hidden gem of the week. One more release which I missed is Zombieville USA 3D, a top-down shooter with randomly generated weapons, although it does not describe itself as roguelite anywhere, instead evoking arcade design with modern visuals that look pretty good. You face relentless waves of zombies, striving to survive for as long as possible, running around the neighborhood and using a variety of weapons to dispatch of your enemies. And with 39 unlockable weapons, including machine guns, shotguns, chainsaws, rockets, energy weapons, flamethrowers and katanas, 28 unlockable perks which gear you towards a particular playstyle, as well as the aforementioned randomly generated weapons with unique perks, does provide plenty of variation. This is a high score chase kind of game with a global leaderboard, also having co-op support for up to 3 players, and is also the follow-up to Zombieville USA from 15 years ago, marking a successful reawakening of this series. This one's for indie game developers. The free indie game marketing resources are ready, so sign up via the link in the description below to get it in your mailbox. I previewed Mudborn Frog Management Sim when looking at the upcoming releases of the month, noting that it had a similar vibe to the beekeeping farming sim Apico, only to then later realize that that is because it is from the exact same developer. However, instead of bees, this game is all about frogs, where you awaken from hibernation to find your pond deserted. To rejuvenate your environment, you have to do genetic experimentation, breeding diverse frog species that serves as keys to traverse between the waking and dreaming realms, having a bit of a trippy vibe as well and isn't as straightforward as it seems. There are crafting minigames, menu management and puzzle solving, and similar to Apico, new frog species will allow you to unlock paths to explore new areas where other frogs remain dormant, with the goal of restoring lost populations and to uncover the mysteries surrounding the pond's desolation, along with mushroom growing, bug catching and much more, and looks like another potential hit. This next title has one of the weirdest news release cycle, since Rainbreaker looks like medieval punk Hades, where our heroine is a fearless rebel determined to dismantle the oppressive kingdom. Armed with a javelin, you engage in intense battles against hordes of lock-operated knags, aiming to overthrow the elite and to lay siege to the queen's formidable bastion, having sweet-looking action and great visuals. The motorized javelin is an interesting weapon of choice, with combat requiring flashy combos, counters and heavy hits with roguelite-style progression systems in between runs as well. However, if you're subscribed to my newsletter, you will know that this developer is shutting down after releasing this game, promising to have a skeleton crew to address post-launch patches, bug fixes and so on, but they could not find a way to keep making games, which is a shame, where I suppose the transparency of announcing that before the launch of the game is appreciated, but very weird nonetheless. After a little bit of a delay, we have the release of Kaiserpunk as well, a grand city building and strategy game set in an alternate 20th century timeline where World War I never ended. They cite 5 main pillars of the game in City Builder, Grand Strategy, Logistics, Production and Choices, where on a micro level, you are doing city building stuff, caring for your people and expanding your industrial output, but this feeds into the global conflict on a world map, where you are directing troops and waging war across land, air and sea. The logistics matter in how you are transporting resources to your factories, and then troops and vehicles to the front lines, having to balance that with research to move up the tech tree, as well as to engage in diplomacy with other nations, looking pretty ambitious and will be for strategy game fans. We also have the 1.0 release of Cataclysmo, a defense RTS with building and tower defense elements, where you lead the last human survivors in a world ravaged by a magical catastrophe. You are heading out into the mist to reclaim land that was once yours, having to construct fortresses brick by brick, and to use your troops to fend off relentless waves of monstrous entities known as horrors. During the day, you explore the desolate landscape to gather resources, utilizing a building system inspired by Lego to design and expand your stronghold. At night, you face the horrors in intense battles, positioning your troops and fortifications to withstand the onslaught. Construction and building here is interesting since physics are in play, where if you build too carelessly and leave foundational pillars exposed, damage from enemies might just cause entire sections of the wall to collapse and for enemies to breach your defenses. This has various game modes, including a campaign with diverse missions, survival challenges, and a creative mode for freeform construction, following up and adding to the concept of They Are Billions or Age of Darkness Final Stand, but is doing its own thing with the building, and is a good one of these, so if you have been waiting, the 1.0 launch should be a good time to jump in. One of the more interesting releases of the week for two reasons is 33 Immortals, a cooperative action roguelite with 33 player co-op support, with each session lasting approximately 25 minutes, beginning in a hub where players choose roles like melee, range, support or tank, going forth to battle in mini dungeons while being split into smaller groups, only for the remaining players to regroup to attempt the final battle, which is interesting to say the least. But also, this will be an early access release on the Epic Games Store and Xbox Series X via Game Pass, so I'm guessing that the latter is a play to get enough players in matches, so if you're interested, launch will probably be the best time to check this out, and who knows if this game will be viable in the long term. Watch this video for more upcoming co-op games.